March evening in 1922, deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany, stood a lonely farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. The farm looked ordinary at first glance. Red roofs, wooden barns, surrounded by endless fields. But inside those walls lived a family whose fate would become one of the darkest unsolved mysteries in history. The Gruber family lived there. Andreas Gruber, the strict patriarch, his wife, Cecilia, their widowed daughter, Victoria, and her two children, little Cecilia and baby Joseph. They worked the farm, kept to themselves, and endured the isolation of rural life. Nothing about them suggested the horror that was coming. But days before the tragedy, small, unsettling things began to happen. Footsteps were heard in the attic, though no one could be found. Keys to the house disappeared. Strange tracks appeared in the snow, leading up to the farm, but none leading away. The family told neighbors about their unease. They were terrified, and yet they stayed. On March 31st, the farm went silent, not because the family had gone away, but because someone, had come for them. Days later, neighbors grew worried. No one had seen the Grubers. The children had not attended school. The family had missed Sunday church. Finally, concerned locals went to the farm. What they found would haunt them forever. Inside the barn, hidden beneath hay, lay the bodies of Andreas, his wife, Victoria, and little Cecilia. The young girl's hands were clutching at her own scalp, as if she had torn her hair out in terror before she died. Inside the house, baby Joseph was found dead in his cradle. The maid, Maria, who had only arrived the day before, was found murdered in her room. 6 victims, all butchered with a pickaxe. But here's where the horror twists even deeper. Whoever killed them stayed. For days, smoke rose from the chimney, livestock were fed, meals were cooked. The killer lived among the corpses, calmly going about farm life as if nothing had happened. The police descended on Hinterkaifeck. They scoured the farm, questioned locals, and hunted for clues, but what they found only added to the mystery. The weapon, a mattock or pickaxe, had been left behind. No money had been taken, no valuables missing. Whoever did this didn't come for robbery. They came for something far darker. To this day, no one knows for certain who the murderer was, but the theories are chilling. Some believe it was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor rumored to have had a relationship with Victoria and possibly the father of baby Joseph. He knew the farm well, and he was among the first to discover the bodies. Suspicion hung over him for years, but nothing was ever proven. Others whisper it was a vagrant, someone hiding in the attic, waiting for the right moment. Remember those footsteps, the missing keys, the footprints in the snow? It all suggested the killer had been inside long before the murders. Another theory is even stranger, that the killer was never caught because they never left the farm. Some believe the murderer died there or was hidden in plain sight all along. A phantom living among the family, unseen until it was too late. But perhaps the most unsettling detail is this. Little Cecilia, the 7-year-old girl, survived long enough to suffer. Records show she lived for several hours after the attack, pulling out her own hair in agony, waiting for death, alone in the dark. Imagine the fear in that silent farmhouse, footsteps in the attic, whispers in the night, and finally the cold realization that no one was coming to help. What monster could do this and then calmly stay, feeding the animals, cooking meals, and vanishing without a trace? Over 100 years later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved.
The farmhouse itself was torn down in 1923, but the story refuses to die. Books, documentaries, even paranormal investigations return to it again and again. Was it revenge, madness, or something no living man could explain? One thing is certain. The silence of Hinterkaifeck was not just the silence of death, it was the silence of secrets buried too deep to ever be uncovered.